Chapter 2, Maddie Did It. Episode 1 continued. Michael Stewart. It all started with the rain. That's what the people of Springfield say whenever asked about the fatal prom night that occurred over a decade ago, leaving a town in complete ruins. This is the opening line of author David Portman's book, Springfield Massacre, The Legend of Maddie Washington. It examines the events leading up to what he refers to as the Bloody Prom, when a girl named Madison Abigail Washington nearly burned down her entire town, killing 200 people, including the majority of her senior class, at their first racially integrated prom. The opening line, along with the testimony we played at the beginning of this program, has haunted me with more questions than answers. But if you ask anyone from Springfield, or at least anyone still alive, what happened that fatal night, they all say the same thing as Cole Letcher. Maddie did it. How? Well, that's still up for debate. The survivors of that night witnessed the horror unfold firsthand, so why doesn't anyone believe them? Hello, my name is Michael Stewart. I'm a producer here at NPR Radio, and before we go any further, I want to introduce my lovely, I'll bet, unconventional co-host for this series, Miss Tanya King. Tanya King. Hello, Michael. How about you tell us a little about yourself, Tanya? Tanya. Sure, I'm an anthropologist and professor at the University of Sydney. Michael. Okay, so full disclosure, Tanya and I met at a bar a little over 6 months ago. Tanya. Translation, he was hitting on me. Michael laughs. Okay, fair enough. Well, I was striking up a convo about what I do for a living. Tanya. Which is? Michael. I investigate true crimes, and I had just gotten a break in a case that I've been obsessed with since my freshman year in college. So I was kinda excited and told her about it. Tanya. To which I replied that I had never heard of the Springfield Massacre. Michael. Then I promptly said, what rock have you been living under? Were you too busy fighting off giant spiders and kangaroos down under? Tanya. The date ended quickly after that, but he did hold my attention for a bit with his passionate babble about some girl who could move furniture with her mind. Michael. Honestly, I thought the entire world had heard of the massacre, especially given all the conspiracy theories surrounding it. Tanya. And that's probably why I hadn't, because it just sounds crazy. I pride myself on being a realist. Michael. So, I thought this would make a great social experiment. I mean, what better way to approach this case with a fresh pair of eyes than by presenting it to an extreme skeptic who has absolutely no tainted knowledge of the massacre. For the next few weeks, we're going to retrace the events leading up to prom night, turning over old leads, maybe even digging up new evidence, and let you and our listeners be the judge. Tanya. I mean, really? It all sounds like a fantastic urban legend, but I am curious about these conspiracy theories you mentioned. Can I hear some? Michael. Well, for starters, consider the way the entire town went up in flames. It just couldn't have been the work of one teen girl with, quote, magical powers. That's what people have a hard time processing. Hence the state investigation, the interrogation, the burying of facts. The high school was already under a lot of heat as it was, which we'll dive into later. So in the general public's eye, Maddie had to have had some help destroying the place. Tanya. Did they consider it a domestic terrorist attack of sorts? Michael. Something like that. You also have the conservative swamp believing Black Lives, Black Pride, or BLBP had something to do with it, given all the protests that took place in the weeks prior to prom night. Then there are people who believe that it never happened at all, that it was all Hollywood effects and crisis actors, which is just disgusting. Tanya. I believe kids died. I believe they existed. I just don't believe the cause of their death. Michael. Yeah, neither did the state of Georgia. Neither did most of America. which is why Portman's book went virtually unnoticed. But I do have one theory to add to the mix. Tanya. Okay, let's hear it. Michael. I believe Maddie Washington is still alive. Tanya. Oh God, Mike, you're not serious. Michael. Remember the lead I mentioned earlier? I spoke to someone who may have proof Maddie didn't die in those fires and that she had help escaping. May 1st, 2014. Maddie sat on a bench outside the principal's office, clutching a notebook, her heavy book bag by her feet. She rocked softly back and forth, nibbling on her thumb. Her hair, now 3 times its normal size, draped around her shoulders like a frizzy blanket. Above the bench hung a painted green and white banner, Springville High, home of the Pirates, 4-time state champions, surrounded by framed photos of students both current and past. Maddie kept her eyes focused on her lap, ignoring the gawking stares from the administrative staff. Mostly women in their mid-60s, dressed in mom jeans, grandma sweater vests, shift dresses, and clunky loafers. On the school secretary's red oak desk sat a small white block with a scripture. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Maddie prayed that was true. Mrs. Morgan watched Maddie through Mr. O'Donnell's office window, arms crossed around her stomach. She replayed that morning several times, frustrated by all the witty responses she had finally come up with that eluded her while the students had been mocking Maddie's hair. Why hadn't she put those punks in their place? She wouldn't have thought twice about it at her previous school. Her old kids respected the way she could dish it right back to them. But at this new school, it felt as if the kids knew they were untouchable, that they were the ones really in charge, and that the unemployment was just one complaining parent phone call away. You'll have to move rooms, Mr. O'Donnell said behind her. Probably for the rest of the school year until we can have those windows replaced. The incident when Maddie had left her so rattled that she almost forgotten about the broken glass carpeting her classroom floor. That could wait. Her priority was the frightened, mousy student sitting outside Mr. O'Donnell's office. She couldn't fail her again. I don't care about the stupid room, Steve, he huffed. Okay, so what happened? Miss Morgan turned in time to catch Mr. O'Donnell reorganizing his desk for the second time and rolled her eyes. She had always made him nervous, jittery, which wasn't what one would expect from a school's top official.